Focusing on inclusion can change your business. Jump to the 10-minute mark of this video and learn how Isha from 410 Line Dancers changed his entire dance studio by coming up with the slogan, no clicks, no drama, just great dancing. Welcome back everybody to Clicks and Bricks. My name is Ken. Today is October 8th and we've got a very special guest, Isha from 410 Line Dancers with us today. But before we jump into that interview, we're going to have to hit today's sponsor, which is inlink.com. Inlink.com is rapport made easy. My Inlink account is inlink.com/Ken. It's one URL that I can put on all my other social media profiles that brings my fans back to a central location that has all my different social media profiles. So I don't have to say, here's my TikTok, here's my Instagram, here's my Facebook. I give them inlink.com/Ken, and they have all of my different social media profiles in one location so you can get to know me a little bit better. So jumping right in today, we've got Isha from 410 Line Dancers. And I had to say, this has been one of my favorite pre-interviews and the time that we got to spend together prior to the interview. And we have a lot of similarities where we found some kind of sport in our life or outside activity that helps us also in our daily business and get through, because you're also a project manager, correct, with an IT firm?
Yes. I work as a project manager during the day, so
fantastic.
It's really helpful.
Isha, can you tell the fans, if they wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
You can always find us on 410linedancers.com. I'm available at 410linedancers@gmail.com or Isha at 410linedancers.com. So it's ISHA at 410linedancers.com if you want to get to me directly, or you can hit our website and contact us.
Awesome. And what city are you located in?
We're in the suburbs of Dallas, Texas.
Fantastic. So if you're in Texas and you want to learn line dancing as a sport or as a way just to kind of relax and unwind from the day, Isha's your guy. Can you tell us a little bit of your story on how you came to 410 Line Dancing and how this is, you're a founder of the company, correct?
Yes.
All right. So can you tell us a little story about how you went from project management and IT to line dancing? Because that's a pretty big jump.
Well, the thing about project management is I've been a project manager for a long time. I started in '96. And project management is a very stressful position to have. So you're the singular throat to choke when things go wrong. Therefore, I wanted to come up with a way to go and just unwind and just let loose. So initially I would go out and I would do the wobble and those kinds of dances. And I just wanted to just let loose, unwind, and not have anything going on in my mind, because I'm kind of a thinker. My mind's always kind of moving. So what happened was we started seeing some things that we weren't really feeling that included in the other dance communities. So what I decided to do was I said, well, we can either work to get into somebody else's class or we can create our own safe space. So what we decided to do was create our own safe space. And so then when you create a space, you really want it to be a class that you would feel like you won't be at. So that's caused me to have to go to that level, to the next level, the next level, the next level, to make sure that it's inclusive, it's diverse, it's as safe as possible, that it's really a family-oriented thing. It's really not about who can dance and how they can dance. Create opportunities for everyone and not have any kind of inner circle or any kind of cliques or any kind of drama. And when we see drama, we try to cut that out, because we just really want everybody to be able to have what we initially set out for in the first place, which is a kind of a reprieve from all of your daily activities and all the things that stress us out. So that's really our goal and how we got to creating it.
Right. So anytime, I preach this a lot on having extracurricular activities as an entrepreneur, simply so you don't burn out, right? Because if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're not taking care of your staff, your companies, your employees, your customers. You're not taking care of anybody else really, right? Because you're burning yourself out so quickly. And, I chose very similar to you. I had to find some way to unwind, and I chose boxing, or I found boxing. But you bring up a very interesting point. Something is line dancing, we look as, more innocent than boxing for sure, but it's still intimidating to walk into a class for the first time. I remember my first time at 40 years old walking into a boxing class at a boxing gym and putting my cell phone in a locker for the first hour, the anxiety that I felt of not having my cell phone with me for that hour. I remember being in the car calling my staff and be like, hey, I'm not gonna be available for a whole hour, guys. You got it? Like, just in case you need me, I'm gonna be gone for an hour. Did you have any of those kind of hurdles to overcome yourself when you started having, from project management, you feel very responsible for all your projects running and all that other stuff. That how did you get the courage to break away from that daily, everyday thought process to say, hey, I'm going to let go of all of that for a little bit? What were some of the things that you went through when you first went through this journey?
Well, firstly, I had never actually had been to a line dance class when I started. I had never been to one. I'd never seen one. I just went out there and knew the dances that I knew, and that was it. So the first thing that I really wanted to do was say, okay, let me educate myself on what it is to be an instructor and what it is to make sure. So I think that I walked into it with just initially wanting to make sure that it was fun and that it was inclusive and there was no exclusivity to it. And then what happens is, I think that you first you want to learn better dances, right? And then I think that the thing is, when people come into our class, what we saw early on is people would come in and, just the same as in your situation, there are already some relationships formed. So we really worked hard to, first of all, try to make sure that we are introducing everyone to everyone, so that nobody feels like they've got to come into kind of like the new kid in school.
Right.
So we didn't want any parts of that. We wanted to make sure everybody felt as included as possible. So what I started doing is, every single class when there's new people, I introduce everybody to everybody. And then I want to make sure that the culture in my group is very inclusive so that the new people don't have to come in and feel awkward. The second thing we did was, and this was right off the bat, we take their names and we say, you need a dancer name. And that lowers the level of seriousness right off the bat. So people can understand that, hey, here it's going to be about fun. So it's not about your first name. We want you to come up with your own alias, and we want you to just do that. And then the third thing I tell them all the time, we had a bunch of new people in there. We have new people every class. But I always tell people when they think, oh my God, we're holding up the class, I'm a spotlight, I don't know it that well. I always go pointing to any corner of the room and I say, do you see 3 seats and 3 judges sitting in there? Because if you don't, that means there's no judgment in here. This is where you learn it. I'm going to be here anyway. So don't worry about slowing anybody up. Just learn the dances and take your time. And I think that when you lower the stress of, oh my God, I'm holding everyone up, or I don't know anybody, or whatever, then it just kind of makes it a lot easier to let go for that hour or 2 hours. You're not sitting in there thinking, oh my God, I'm letting loose of all the control I have for 1 hour.
Right. So I don't know why this has come about for me, but my podcast, it has a certain amount of popularity amongst dance studio owners. I'm not really sure why. So whenever, just for other dance studio owners, how do you position that in your marketing or your taglines to let people know that this is an inclusive place to come and it's a safe place to come? Do you have a certain marketing line, or how do you let people know that? Because that first time when they're walking in the door, that's the scary part, right? I mean, they found you somewhere online. They're looking for some kind of line dancing place. And if you're differentiating yourself with, hey, we're inclusive and we're not judgy and we're not cliquey, how do you say that before? Because the experience sells for you, right? Absolutely. I'm very familiar with selling through experience. But the challenge is letting people know that prior to. So do you have any tips or tricks for the other dance studio owners to let their potential members know, hey, this is a safe place, it's all inclusive, and you don't have to know how to dance. It's ready for any level of, this is for you to remove stress from your life and learn a new skill, right?
I think overall, what I learned pretty fast in the dance world is that typically or stereotypically, there are inner circles and cliques. People are going to have relationships that are closer than others, and then that can form into a clique. And we had some of that at first at 410 Line Dancers as well, where we had some people that were a little more clicked up than others. And I saw how destructive that was pretty fast. I saw the gossiping and all that stuff that was happening even at 410 Line Dancers. So what I did was I sought counsel with other dance instructors, other line dance instructors, not just line dancing, but just dance instructors. And that seemed to be a pretty common thing, whether it's Zumba or boxing or karate or any of the other things that we've done that have been athletic, and people can get really close to each other and even the owner. So what I decided to do is what we had a problem in our group, so we decided to start saying right up front, no cliques, no drama, just great dancing. So we made that a part of our tagline because we wanted to get rid of cliques and drama, and we wanted to really level set expectations about what you're going to get when you come in here.
Right.
So when people see that you're very serious, and it's so serious about this that you have that as a part of your slogan, no cliques, no drama, just great dancing. And we started marketing that about 5 years ago. It's really helped us to make sure that people want to come in there. They don't want the cliques. They don't want a drama at all. Nobody wants to deal with a cool kids table at all. It's a very big thing.
Right.
And I did a speech about this in my Toastmasters whenever I was working on my DTM, which I got 7 years ago, about how hurtful it is when you're not a part of the cool kids table. And I also had that experience in my fraternity, how hurtful it is, even for adult men and women, when you are not a part of the cool kids table. So knowing that and having experience with that and having even researched and written about that and even spoke about that, I wanted to make sure that under no circumstances are you going to see a cool kids table at 410 Line Dancers. So no matter what I think of anybody or anybody else does, everything at 410 includes everyone, period, in the discussion.
Right. So I was in San Diego earlier this week, and on my flight, I like to read, or actually I don't read, I listen to books. And I listened to Hook Point, which is a phenomenal book, highly recommended for anybody in business. And he talks a lot about what you did is you made your tagline, your hook point for your business, right? And then people are looking for that all-inclusive, no cliques, right? You're dancing, but you're different than a traditional dance studio. And it's important to really dive deep into, what makes you different and make that your hook to your customers, because there's another guy that I listen to, and I can't think of the name of it, but he always says different is better than better, right? And what you've done is you've created something different. And I've done the same thing in the boxing community, at least in St. Louis, right? And it feels really, really good to do that, right? And I wish that more people in the world would take these kinds of risks and, just do the things that they love to do. So did you, when you did this, I'm sure you had a conversation with your wife and your family and say, hey, we're going to start this. And I'm sure there's absolutely a financial component of risk that you had to take and absorb and to move forward. And I know that there's been times in my life that I've wanted to do that and I've chickened out or didn't have the confidence in my plan or whatever. But there's something that clicks when you know it's right and you take that chance, right? And you've done it, and there's a lot of people out there in the world that want to do that, and they're hung up on something's not letting them go to the next step. So can you help us talk about how you overcome that, or what was one of the things that you had to overcome? For me, it's a lot of times my wife is not as financially risk tolerant as I am, right? Yeah. So I know, we're going to make a big investment here in a couple of days, and she's like really, and it's an advertising investment, which is even more scary because you don't know that they're going to come back, right? So, what do you do? What is your tip to, overcome and break through that challenge of this is scary stuff that we're doing a lot of times, right? And my kids' college might be on the line because of this, right? So how do you, what's in your head when you're thinking through that gets you to the next step?
Well, the big thing for me that I say around my house is we always get receipts in my house. So what I did was initially what really got the ball rolling for 410 Line Dancers is I was dancing at the club here in Dallas. I just pick a club and they'll do the biker shuffle or the wobble or something like that. And I was seeing some freezing out in that. No big deal to me. My wife was actually doing a little bit more serious. She was doing flamenco dancing, and she had been frozen out of that community. And she had been doing in her sorority, she was a step master for her sorority, and they would do step competitions. And she saw some drama with that also. Yeah. But with the flamenco community, I think for her, she would come home in tears many days because they were keeping her out of opportunities to perform, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember her coming home one night in tears because she had went to perform. They didn't let her perform. And I told her that I would make sure that if I get involved in dancing, that we were going to make sure that we made a massive impact, and anybody who left her out was going to make sure that we were going to make them regret it for doing it. So what I did was First thing I felt like is it's free to write a plan out. So what I did was my brother was getting his MBA, and he lives in Virginia Beach. I flew up there to see him get his MBA, and that weekend I took my laptop, and that weekend I created a business plan with those financials for the first 3 years. So I did a break-even analysis within that business plan. So I was able to present to my wife, okay, this is how long we're going to lose money, and then this is when we're going to break even, and then this is where we're going to gain money, and this is how much we're going to have to invest in order to do it. So once she saw it in black and white, she saw those receipts, then we could make a decision on, can we spend that much money for this long before we see any kind of ROI? Right. Once she saw that in black and white, then it's a real easy financial decision. Either you have the money, or you don't have the money, or you're willing to put that money up, or you're not willing to put that money up. So for us, I was willing to put that money up, and with her seeing a break-even analysis, it made it difficult for her to say, well, we're not just throwing money into the fireplace and hoping it turns into fire. Right. She was able to see, we're planning on it for this long. So I think that the biggest thing is you plan, and then you stick to your plan. So what we've also had is, of course, people who are not a part of our planning process, which is, well, everybody, right. They're always wanting to give you feedback on your plan without being a part of your planning process, without being a part of your financial process, without being a part of your mission, vision, purpose, goals, objectives. They don't have any of that in mind when they're giving you their feedback. So you take the feedback that has all those things in mind, your mission, vision, goals, purpose, objectives, and your finances, and all of that. You have to take information that only applies if it applies to those things. So what we've been able to do is we started with that first business plan, and then we started making more plans and more writing everything out. And that was the difference between, to me, that's our competitive advantage. And I'm used to writing everything because I'm a project manager. Everything has to be written. So I write, research my tail off, and it doesn't cost me anything to do it. So it's an investment in time to figure out if it's an investment in money. So that should calm anybody down who's on the edge thinking about it. Just research your tail off and figure out if it's a good idea for you.
Right. And then know your numbers, right? That's an important one. Mark LaSimona says this all the time. Know your numbers. Don't call me into a meeting if you don't know your numbers. So a 3-year forecast, right? And I don't have a great resource for forecasting, but if you need to do a forecast, you should be able to talk to your accountant if you've never done one before. And I'm sure there's probably some Google Doc templates. And maybe we'll think about, Debbie, can we get together like a mock forecast for our viewers so that we can get them as a download in the future? Because that's huge. I'm going through the same process right now of getting a forecast together for a make-believe company, right, that doesn't exist yet, to see if this is worth raising the money for or not. So I think that's phenomenal, the planning and the forecasting and all of those things, and it's absolutely needed at any time. Because I just did this. I opened a new business in April of this year, and there was a $25,000 bathroom expense that was not in my budget, right? So I'm sure that those have popped up as well for you. Yes. And I tell my wife all the time, like, jump and the net will appear, is how we have to just look at some of these things, right? Like we're confident in ourselves, and we know that we can move forward, and we're going to have hurdles, and some of these hurdles are wildly scary, like a $25,000 bathroom upgrade that you weren't expecting because zoning approved you at first, but 2 weeks before you open, they're like, oh no, it has to be ADA compliant, right? And I'm sure you had similar hurdles, maybe not to that scale, or maybe greater than that scale even, right, in that plan. So, you said you would have to adjust that plan frequently. Is that how you account for and deal with those kinds of changes?
Well, what we do is, first of all, we do every 3 years, we do a new business plan. And then every year I do capital planning. Every October I do capital planning because first of all, every 3 years I learn a lot more information within 3. I mean, just a ton, because I remember when we first opened, we just thought, hey, we'll get some students and hey, maybe we'll sell a t-shirt or two and that'll be it. We'll be great. Well, now
probably
we have
20%, right? Is typically what it is in retail.
Right. But now we sell all kinds of merchandise. We have events. We have all these different, we're throwing events. We're getting privates. We're getting corporate events. We are doing all these different kinds of things that bring in revenue besides students and t-shirts. So we have to account for those things. We know more information. And then our budget's gotten bigger. We have to give our cut. So for us, one of our competitive advantages is we give our customers an experience. So for me, it's about your CRM plan. So now you've got to have a customer relationship management plan just to get and retain customers. So to me, that costs money. We have our IT section. That costs money. We didn't think about that in our first plan.
Yeah.
A website costs money. E-commerce costs money. Hosting costs money. All these different things cost money that we didn't necessarily think about when we thought, oh, okay, all we got to do is buy a domain. We'll have it for 2 years and boom, we'll make a website.
Right.
It's not that simple anymore. Now our IT is a lot bigger, including but not limited to, for example, we're now doing commercials. So we need Adobe Creative Cloud. We didn't think about software and new computers and hardware, cameras, video cameras, and
Right.
those things break and those things have to be repaired or replaced. All those different things that we didn't initially think about that has kind of raised our budget. So I have to do capital planning now. So that turned in from a 3-year plan to now a 1-year plan. So every year in October, I say, okay, it's taking this much money in my estimation to run 410 line dancers. And how am I going to get that money in? Well, this is the plan on doing it. And all of that's free, because if at the end of the day, if I think that that's too much money or I don't see a way we can make anything out of it, then I have to make a decision on if it's worth doing it.
Right. And sometimes I make decisions sometimes that aren't going to make me money, but they make me feel good. Right? Especially at my boxing school, right? I know that sometimes I'm going to sponsor a kid that I've just fallen in love with because I think he's got, some kind of weird little grit that when they walk in the door, you can feel that energy from him. You're like, but he's a foster kid, doesn't have any money. So like, let's just sponsor him. Let's get him in here because they're fun to have around, right? So sometimes you get to put yourself in positions where you get to help people, and money's not the only objective. And I'm sure that with something like what you're doing, that plays in quite frequently as well.
Yeah. So for example, we had over the coronavirus, I mean, we thought about shutting down like everybody else did, but our group said, hey, we need you here. And we decided, because we saw the unemployment just blowing up, we decided to just do it for free for 6 months. And then after that, we had a deferral program, and many people just never paid. But we just said, okay, we have to do the right things here and make sure that we are taking care of our people. We'll end up, maybe we'll get it back later, maybe we won't get it back later. I think that long term, ultimately, it's helped us long term to be able to get and retain some customers that we had never thought we would ever get and retain. We turned our local following into a national following just by doing that. And I never saw that coming.
Right.
So just being able to, and then being able to be a solutions provider. So now people aren't just asking me about dancing. They're telling me about, hey, I've got this problem. I got financial problems. I've got family issues. And they're looking for you to come be a solutions provider because you give them an entire experience. And because of that, that drives customer loyalty. So those kinds of things have been more valuable. And now it isn't about who can dance and who can't dance and who, I don't really care. So we got people who maybe they're not going to necessarily win any dance fever contest, but they're super loyal to what we're trying to do.
Right. And you built a community, right? Which I believe is hands down the most important thing to do. If you're in business and you're a 100% transactional business, I think you're going to struggle quite a bit, right? If you're creating a value way greater than learning how to line dance, right? And you're doing a life coaching and stress relief and all those things, and you're doing it behind the mask of line dancing, right? Is at the end of the day, which is phenomenal. People need that kind of service, and it's hard to do in today's economy and world, especially with, I don't know if you've got the same issues going on in your community, but I know, in my community, we got mask mandates one day, not the next day, and it's, hard to keep track with all that stuff, and you want to keep people safe. At the same time, you want to accommodate the people that aren't coming to your place anymore because they have to wear face masks and exercise. So it's really challenging, and I thank you for, stepping up and doing that for your community. We need more leaders like you in our world, and I don't think you probably hear thank you enough from from your members and the people around you. So I think it's important that we recognize each other. And I know you gave me a huge shout out before we're on camera today, and I very much appreciate that. And I just wanted to return that to you.
Thank you
for doing the stuff that you're doing in your community, because it's changing lives, right? It's hands down. It's preventing drug addiction. It's preventing suicides. It's doing a lot of stuff for people. And if you're running a business and life is hard, I cannot tell you enough. If it's line dancing or boxing or tennis, I can't imagine running a business or being at any high level of stress and not having some kind of release after the day's over. And for many years for me, it was, at the bar at happy hour networking. And I used that excuse for way too many years. And it almost killed me, right? So it's not a good place to be. And, if you're out there and you're hustling and you're an entrepreneur or you're trying to start a business, find something outside of your passion that you can do that helps you get rid of that stress relief, right? I think it's I don't know if it's the most important thing if you're in business, but it's in my top 5 most important things to do if you really want to strive as a business owner.
Well, I think the other thing, though, just to your point, I think that the other thing that I think is extremely valuable is you got to find people who have already been there, done that, and have survived. So when you hear someone like yourself who has survived what you've survived to be able to make a $25,000 investment, for example, you've been able to make a second business, make a third business. That's valuable information for folks to be able to call you and talk to you and just learn from you. So I think that's extremely valuable to hear stories like yours of perseverance. And then those of us who are trying to strive and be better at this, we're always willing to share. So someone like yourself would be an absolute pillar and somebody to learn from, and somebody who you would be honored to even listen to on how to persevere through this stuff. This is real hard stuff.
It is, and we make it, we hide it very well to the people that aren't in the privy, or the people that aren't in the know, right? And we have to carry the strong face in front of our members, in front of our employees, in front of our staff, and everybody out in the world, right? But it does get really hard, but the benefits are the greatest thing, right? I tell my kids when I'm teaching them how to box all the time, like, hey, this is really hard work, and greatness comes after all this pain. And I promise you, it's going to be the greatest feeling in your whole life when you're walking down the aisle and all the lights are on you and the people are cheering your name, right? It's going to be, I've got 2 kids and a wife, and the first time I won a sanctioned fight might be the greatest moment in my life. Not 100% sure. It's definitely up there with the top 5 with the marriage and kids. So, it's push through those hard times, and that's when you'll really find happiness, is in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with saying that. First of all, everybody tells you if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So you got to get around people that are smarter. Yep. And you have to humble yourself around those people that are smarter. So I look for people that are smarter than me, who've been there, done that, and that are willing to teach me anything. I tell this story quite a bit. So everybody always wants to meet Magic Johnson or whoever. I got a chance to meet him. It was total dumb luck. So I didn't know I was going to meet him, and it was a complete accident. So I do photography also, which is one of the reasons why 410 has great photos out there. Right. So we're photographers. And I got the opportunity, if you can believe this, to shoot an NBA Finals game, if you can believe that. So I'm at this NBA Finals game, and I'm coming down some stairs before the game. This is probably 2 hours before the game. I got in through the media pass, and bam, there's Magic Johnson. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, that's Magic Johnson. And it's just him and me, no one else. And the last thing I was not thinking about autographs or anything else, not pictures, selfies, or anything. I probably should have, but I wasn't. Right. What I thought was, how can I get him to mentor me? That was my whole question. So I had 45 seconds. Again, I didn't know I was going to meet him, and I didn't know I was going to have this alone time. But I gave him the whole, hey, Mr. Johnson, big fan, watched your career, and I've watched your career after playing basketball. You're certainly a successful businessman. And what I would love is, and then we get mobbed by a bunch of kids. I didn't even get it out. And he said, sorry, man, got to do this autograph thing. I said, it's okay. Go ahead and do it. And I'm like, man, I had 40. So that's the elevator speech conversation. Now I've had that same conversation or that same thing. I'm a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan because I'm originally from Pittsburgh, and I've run across Jerome Bettis quite a bit. It's dumb luck. It's all dumb luck, right? I ran into him in St. Louis actually one time as well because he apparently he's coming from somewhere. But anyway, I run into him, and the last time I ran into him, he has a restaurant in the outside of downtown Pittsburgh, and I ran into him there. And he was so busy trying to party and have a drink. And I'm again I don't drink. So I'm asking him, hey, Mr. Bettis, I'm a big fan. I've come across you 4 or 5 times. You've signed a couple of things for me, whatever. And hey, do you mind if, bam, we get flooded?
Yep.
So the point is, get to the point.
Yes.
Get some people around you. So when you get smart people around you, get to the point. Get their phone number. Help me out.
Yeah, my wife's giving me a hard time right now because I'm spending a little too much money putting myself in position to be around, buying the cage side seats at the fights and, going and doing those extra things. And I'm like, well, I really need to be around people with this kind of energy, right? And because it helps you so much. And when you're around greatness, you can feel it. Like it's a different feeling when a world champion or a Super Bowl or a Major League Baseball player, NFL player, anybody is in the room with you, right? You can feel their energy or vibration, whatever you want to call it, right? It's a different kind of feeling than when you're around, friends and family, for sure.
Well, I think that firstly, a lot of times I have this story about I ran into Terrence Newman. He was playing for the Dallas Cowboys. Again, if you know me, even though I live in Dallas, I'm so anti-Cowboys. It's not even fun.
You and my wife would get along great.
Right. So it's probably a Steelers 70s thing. Anyway, so I ran into Terrence Newman the first time. He played quarterback for the Cowboys. And they had just lost in Pittsburgh. They had just lost that game probably the day before. And I ran into him, out of all places, last call Neiman Marcus, right? So he's in the outlet mall shopping. Right. I'm in the outlet mall shopping. There he is. And I recognize him. Nobody's in there. Nobody's bothering him. Nobody's bothering me. I walk up to him and I say, hey, what's going on? Hey, sorry about yesterday's game, blah, blah, blah. And he said, it happens. And I said, all right, let me keep it 100 with you. I'm not sorry about what happened yesterday. I'm glad y'all got beat. I'm a big Steeler fan. Y'all got your tail whooped, blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, why don't you shut up, you fat Jerome Bettis? And after that, him and I just laughed our heads off. And we have been, every time I see him, we just talk for hours.
Right.
So now he's coaching somewhere. And so I saw him go from Dallas to Cincinnati to Minnesota. Now he's coaching. And I have nothing but the greatest stories. And every time I see him, we talk for hours like we're old friends.
Right.
And I remember seeing him at a restaurant and some guy comes out and says, don't you know he's made he's got a 5-year, $60 million. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
He's just a cool dude.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. Fantastic. All right. I think we're about an hour, into this. 30 minutes? Really? Oh, my clock must be wrong in here then. So before we go, there's one question I'd like to ask you, and I know this is a hard one for you, but I think we set this up, and I hope you've done a little bit of thinking on it, is what piece of technology, because this is Clicks and Bricks, we talk about business and technology, have you implemented or used in your business or personal life that has really helped you or that you just couldn't live without or helped you grow as a business person?
Well, really we use what I think is a massive advantage, a competitive advantage for us is we do a lot of videography. And when we do our videography, we use Adobe Creative Cloud to do it. So we do intros and outros to our YouTube channel and our YouTube videos. We do commercials. We use Adobe Creative Cloud for that. We use a little bit of Final Cut too. So we're good on Final Cut. We graduated from iMovie and went into Final Cut. And Final Cut's hard, but once you got it, you love it. Right. Then for the photography, I'm big on Adobe Lightroom and of course Adobe Photoshop. Right. So the CS6 is really good. That's when I'm really bringing out the big gun. So if I'm really doing some big time photography stuff, it's Adobe CS6 Photoshop. So for this photo right here, this was something that I did in Photoshop CS6.
Right.
So, but I edited each of those individual pictures in Adobe Lightroom. So we're really big on Adobe and Adobe products, very much so. And then, of course, since I'm kind of a power user, I go ahead and customize, and I have it where I've got my own scripts written at this point because I use it all the time. So now, once you start doing your own scripts for Adobe Creative Cloud stuff, you're just kind of customizing it and making it easier for yourself.
Right.
And those things just give me such a massive, massive competitive advantages over the other folks who do really any kind of athletic stuff, because at this point, so for example, boxers, they box. That's what they do. They're good at it. And that's it. But they're not thinking necessarily about, hey, I've got to market our boxing. So so we've got to have great pictures, good action pictures, stop action pictures. We have to have them clear. We can't have blurry pictures. I can't use my iPhone. I don't care if it's the 13 or any other number.
Right.
I have to make sure that my phone is that I'm going to use professional photos. This is my business. Or when I have a YouTube, when I want people to see what I'm doing or what I'm talking about, an intro and outro is extremely important. So I can't just slap a video up there with this camera angle and don't put an intro and an outro to it, don't have a logo to it, whatever. I think that all of those little things, and so we use a lot of Adobe through our app, through Mac and Apple, and it's just been such a big advantage for us technology-wise.
Well, and I think the big curve, what Adobe did in the last couple of years, I've been using Adobe since, I was joking about it yesterday, I've been using Photoshop since, I think, version 1 in 1996. I worked at Washington University. So I've been using Photoshop for a very, very long time. But they've really lowered the bar of entry now, right? You can get an Adobe online suite for like $10 a month, where it used to be, $1,000 or $1,200 for a license of one of their pieces of software. Now, for a very reasonable price, you can get into that suite and have wildly powerful tools available to you. So there's the only excuse you have now is you don't know this stuff. But self-education and continued education is a vital piece of growth in your entire life. So if you don't know these things, they're really affordable. I think they have student licensing too that's even more affordable, correct?
Yeah.
I've not looked at that in a while, but so Adobe's done a fantastic job of really lowering that price. On the video, and I'm not affiliated with Adobe or the next little plug that I'm going to give, we use a program called vidIQ for our YouTube.
And we use that too.
And for YouTube videos, posting it, I think, has been one of the single most important pieces of software that we've done for the posting of the YouTube videos, because it helps you with your tagging and your naming and your hooks and just all across the board. And it takes the learning curve of YouTube, which you would think, I just post videos up there, takes that learning curve down quite a bit on knowing how to do it properly, right? And there's a lot of great tips and tricks. And I also have a Discord channel that I'm in, even though I'm not a huge Discord fan because it's a little noisy for me, but I do get I can ask questions inside that Discord channel if I have a question. So great tip. I love Photoshop too, or the entire Adobe suite, right? Not sure what I'd do in my life without it.
I designed these medals over here.
Yeah.
Through Adobe. Everything that we do, we're usually using Adobe Suite. Right. Something in it.
Yeah, it's wildly powerful, and the range of tools in Adobe is phenomenal. So I think that's a great tip, and for the folks out there that looked at it maybe 4 years ago and said, "Oh, that's out of my price range," I'd suggest you go look at it again, because the world has changed quite a bit with software as a service. So. Do you have any offers or anything you would like to leave the audience before we close on today?
Yeah, we always have our class, so you don't have to be in Dallas. We have our class virtual, of course, and we've got students around the country. You can always come and take our class every Thursday from 7 to 9, or every Sunday 6 to 8. The first hour is always beginning, second hour is intermediate to advanced. We have merchandise online. We're available for private events. We're available for corporate events. We're available for your family reunion. Whatever you got going on, we're available. And we also have a mastermind group that we run. So we really like talking to other entrepreneurs and trying to help you all and really help ourselves also. I hate to be selfish about this, but not try to learn everything by stumbling on our own feet. Let's get together, let's have some conversations and figure out how we can help each other. So I'm really big on networking for those who want to network. And then also I'm also big on trying to communicate. Like I said, we have our photography and videography business. We try to do a bunch of different things, and we use 410 line dancers as a beacon for change and positive change and health and uplifting others. So it's not really making us, we're not quitting our day jobs at all behind
Right.
this, but one day we try to do the right thing, the money will come. So that's
Yeah, if you do what you love, the money will come, and if you're doing what you love, you don't really care about the money anyway, right? It's not the purpose for what you're doing. So, Isha, I very much appreciate your time today. I thank you for coming out and sharing your stories with us. It means a lot, and I hope that our viewers got something out of today. That is it for today's episode, folks. I hope to see you next time, and get to work.